Welcome to the Achieve Success podcast. I'm your host, Nathaniel Holmes. Each week, I feature ordinary people who have accomplished great things. Tune in to get inspired and receive tips that'll help you reach your goals in business and life as you strive to become the best version of yourself and achieve success.
Yeah. So I hail from Durham, North Carolina, and I'm an educator at heart. I've always been an educator. I think the youngest age I remember even tutoring and helping people was like 13 years old. Being a middle school student and tutoring kids on a bus, tutoring kids in the classroom. I've always been an educator at heart, and I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was in middle school. At a very young age, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And so the main reason why I teach is an opportunity for me to give back to the community. And so teachers actually took their time to stick their necks out for me. I was a special needs kid, didn't start talking until I was 5. And so going to speech therapy all the way up to 4th grade. And so I developed appreciation for not only teachers, but also therapists, anybody who have contact with students in terms of helping them to grow and helping them to achieve their potential. And so I knew from a young age that I wanted to do that. And so now here it is. I'm in my 13th year as an educator in a school system with aspirations to become a school leader. And in the midst of aspiring to become a school leader, I learned about business later in life. And so in the midst of being a teacher, I also own several businesses as well. And I picked up on business from, honestly, from you. When you started talking about the ventures of business that you have, I picked up on that. So I started reading, I started studying. And I own like 2 businesses right now, along with teaching full time,
Right.
with the full aspiration of opening my leadership academy, which will serve underserved boys and girls in a community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, you talk about, kind of growing up and your love for teaching, and you said about 12 or 13. What grade was that?
7th grade.
7th grade. So 2 years before that, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I was your Sunday school teacher.
You were.
5th grade. Your 5th grade Sunday
grade.
school teacher, you and your sister. And then I also had, who else was in that class was Carolyn and David Noel.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we go back. I mean, we go back a long way. And, I've seen you. There was a period of time when, I didn't see you from probably your high school years, and then your college, and then with social media and everything, we kind of got connected, back again through social media,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen you even since then in that short span of time, sort of grow and progress. So tell me about college. Did you go to college?
I did.
Yeah.
I went to North Carolina Central University, the North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina.
Eagle Pride. Eagle Pride.
E-Funk. No, I'm from the E-Funk class.
That's right.
So I went to Central twice. My first degree was in Spanish. I got my bachelor's degree in Spanish, so I am fluent. So bilingüe, hablo español. And also went to Central for my master's in school administration. So I have a master's and a bachelor's from Central. And I also went to Concordia University in Portland and received my master's of education in educational leadership.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Now, I mean, that in and of itself, I mean, if in my book, if I were to kind of look at your trajectory in your life, knowing you and us, where we came from, the fact that, you not only graduated high school, but went on to college, if we were to stop right there, we would say that's a measure of success. Would you not agree?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm. And it's and I can't help but think, I know before I came to Hickory, so I came to Hickory in 2014. Before I came to Hickory, there were times when, when I was back in Durham, when I just had this nagging feeling of, like we need something for the young people. We need And it kept coming back to having a different or another path. I feel like kind of growing up for me, the path was school, 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 and there was no other alternative. Um,
Right.
and looking back on it, not that it was a bad thing, but I feel as though that may have been, not may have been, but there was another path that if I had been exposed to it, it probably would have changed, the trajectory of my life. And that's the whole entrepreneurial path. I feel as though there's not enough of an emphasis put on the fact that that is a viable option. There are young people out here, 12, 13, 14, 15 that have viable businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because it was taught in the school system, but it's likely because they were exposed either at home or another family member that was an entrepreneur. But America, if you look at it, truly is built on the small business. The majority of the businesses in America are considered small businesses,
Yeah.
but our education system is not set up to educate us in small business or to promote entrepreneurship. It's set
Right.
up, for the old school method of go to school and then you get that job.
Mm-hmm.
And even those jobs are totally different now. So, in that aspect, I feel like there's a place um, for what it is that we're trying to do, and you yourself, you even realize that, because although you've got your multiple degrees, at the same time, you realize that there's an opportunity, one, for you to have your own small business, and two, you have the ability. And I think, well, again, not think, but that's part of the message I want to communicate to our young people, is that there is an opportunity for you and you have the ability. There's
Yeah.
no reason. You talk about how you started off slow in terms of speech, and it wasn't until later on that you started talking. But look at where you are now. And how many other people, how many other young people are just like you and could have the same opportunity.
And that's why I educate, because no matter the circumstance, in my opinion, it doesn't matter where you are right now. It's all about where you're going. So what you're experiencing right now is just a glitch in the pathway. But with the proper interventions, that glitch can be fixed in no time. And so, um, when I first started teaching, I was 20 when I started teaching, and I was always talking about not taking anything away from college, but I always said, when you go to college, all of your students are going to go to college when you go to college. But over the past 12, 13 years, I've truly seen myself evolve from the college mindset as well,
Mm-hmm.
because any post-secondary education after high school, to me, is considered college. So
Right.
when uh, people decide that they want to go to beauty school,
Right.
that's college. When somebody
Right.
wants to go to barber school, that's college. Go to Durham Tech and learn how to install HVAC. That's college. So
Right.
and you work for the man. And I've been saying this for the past 5 or 6 years. Find that one thing that you're good at, that you love to do. Work for the man. See how it's done. See how businesses run. Go take a couple of classes, and then at some point you're going to have your own business. But
Right.
just learn the inner workings of it. So I honestly have evolved from, let's go to college, and college is good for people who are persistent and good with scholastic endeavors.
Right.
But I realized that not everybody is good with scholastic endeavors, especially our black and brown boys.
Right.
We need to be, yeah. So I kind of
And I
evolved from that
think,
mindset.
yep, and I think that that there's definitely something that um you know again, where this fits in that lane, where um it's great if you're looking to be a doctor, if you're looking to be a lawyer, if you're looking to be a dentist, there's certainly some skilled professionals that require the post-secondary education, and then the postgraduate education in order to acquire the skills and the knowledge needed to be proficient in those areas. However, if you really look at the percentages of those professionals is quite low in terms of everybody else.
Indeed.
And how are we managing that? Are we telling everyone, hey, go be a doctor, lawyer? Well, those numbers are very low in comparison to the rest of the population. Why
Mm-hmm.
are we not catering as much or more to the rest of the population that's not their goal, that's not where their path is? And that's where I feel like the trade schools, and entrepreneurship schools or entrepreneurship education needs to be part of a focus. And all of that is to help each individual to achieve a measure of success. Because if you take a young man who has a pension, let's say for automobile, and you give that young man um, automobile tech courses, and you give him the skills that he'll need to be a master mechanic, that young man will absolutely feel like he's achieved a measure of success, because, as you put it, he's engaged in a field of study that interests him, and he is being shown a path to which he can grow within that field of study, and then subsequently earn for himself and his family, which at the end of the day, that's what adulthood is about, is about
Yeah.
providing for yourself and you and your family. But conversely, what's happening is that those paths are not there for some of our young people, and they end up having to provide in other ways that typically end up in interactions with law enforcement and the justice system.
Correct.
You
And,
know?
and so so when I graduated from high school in 2004, from 2000 to 2004, I went to Northern High School. And so every high school in Durham had some kind of focus or trade during that time. So I remember being at Northern. They had agriculture, they had carpentry, they had auto mechanics, which is still there because I taught at Northern. That class was still there. Culinary arts, drafting. They had anybody who wanted to do anything with farming. We had classes for that. We had livestock on campus. We had botany. We had people who wanted to. So we had a whole bunch of possible career goals. And the way that the way that the students were graduating at the time, they had 4 tracks. So you had the college university track, and I probably remember this because you graduated not too long before me.
Yeah,
But
I
they had
graduated in '96.
right.
But for some reason, I don't remember that there was much other than a track for college prep,
Yeah.
and honors. And I don't know that there was a 4-year
Okay.
curriculum, you know what I'm saying? Like a
Yeah.
4-year curriculum designed to steer someone into something like that. That's kind of where
Okay.
what I'm saying. So that's kind of where I'm feeling like there needs to be that need, because it's not too early going into high school for a young person to have an idea that's what they want to do, because at the end of the 4 years, they're going to have a decision to make.
And I was saying that to say that, and it probably started after you left, but we had 4 tracks. We had the college university track. We had the college tech prep. We had the career track, and then the occupational track.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people at that time, now this is my opinion, but when I was in school during that time, we had a lot of kids that were doing the carpentry, a lot of kids doing construction. And what it did for people that graduated with me, what it did was it informed some of us our careers, because a lot of those people who, especially the black and brown guys who graduated with me, a lot of them actually did the things in high school that they wanted to, and they're still doing it to this day with their own businesses. And I can
Right.
only speak for, like, Hillside had the barbering and the beauty school and
Right.
childcare, and Southern had the engineering, and Riverside had engineering. So back then it was it was more career and trade focused.
Yeah.
But then in 2007, I observed. So in 2007, that was when redistricting happened. That's when they were getting ready to change administrations. That's when a lot of that stuff went away, and they started centralizing everything. So
Really?
everything, yeah. So instead of everything being done at each individual school, they had then taken all that stuff out of the school, and then they put it into one centralized building on Driver Street in Durham. And that was when I'm a political person too, and I've read into politics also. And that was when the administration changed hands at the state level, and so everything became testing, 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 testing.
Right.
And that was the start. Well, when No Child Left Behind came in 2004 with under President Bush, that was really the start of a lot of the issues that we have in education, because the goals became unrealistic. And so when the goals become more unrealistic, let's defund public schools, let's defund resources from teachers. And that's when all of the behavior issues and all, especially, and that's when the focus really became, let's focus on our Black and brown boys and talk about equity. It was it's more like a self-induced poison, if you will.
Right.
Because at one point, every school in the United States has some kind of focus, and everybody chose the schools that they wanted to go to because they had the focus.
Right.
But then when they took that out, that was when all the trouble started with, well, let's focus on our Black and brown boys, and why is it that they're not motivated, and why is it that they're not going to college, and why is it that we're not doing enough with trades? And that's when all that started.
Yeah. Now, as far as, for yourself, now you said you've got two businesses. I know about your moving business. I know you also provide tutoring, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then, but you do more than that. You also, I believe, you're licensed insurance, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Let me see what else is there that I know that you do. So those three things I know for sure. But you said you're only two. Now, why did you say only two?
Because I didn't really, honestly, I don't look at the tutoring part as a business. I just do that for fun and leisure, and honestly, and so when I do that for fun and leisure, I get paid to do it too.
Right.
But I just didn't consider it a business. But it is kind of a predecessor for the Rod Laws Leadership Academy, because I took although I majored in Spanish in college, I took a lot of courses in math and science as well. So I'm well versed in math and science as well. And so I just wanted to kind of give back to the community as well in the midst of COVID-19. And that's when I really started picking up the tutoring gigs, and people have, asked for tutoring services. And so what it does for me is I have the aspirations to be a school administrator. And so why not be well-rounded in more than one area in terms of, because you don't see very many principals helping tutoring kids. I want to be that one that does that in the midst of leading the school and in the midst of pushing the school forward. I want to be one that goes in and says, hey, well, this principal don't know about math, and I go in there and show them up one. That's the kind of, I want to be well versed in more than one area. So I'm abreast of a lot of things.
Okay. So how did you get to where you are? How did you get to this point to where, you've got two postgraduate degrees, you've got two businesses, what is it that you did to get from where you started to where you are now?
It took the loss of my mother to really inspire me. I lost my mom back in 2001. I was a freshman in high school. And honestly, different things motivate different people. But for me, that really motivated me to, because before, when she was alive, I took things for granted. I didn't really care about school. I would just go through the motions. I didn't even want to go to college because I heard how hard it was. But right before my mom died, I was offered my first scholarship to Central, because at that time the male to female ratio was 1 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so before she passed away, I was actually offered that scholarship, and they kept track of me all through high school. But my mom died, and that pretty much lit a fire under me. And so I wanted to make sure that she was proud of me. She was my rock. I loved her. And so everything I did up to that point honestly didn't matter. But then when she passed away and my grandma was left to raise me and my twin sister, that was when, after she passed away and I went through a depression for 6 months, I knew I couldn't stay in it that long.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I had to grind. I had to, right then, I had that mentality. And as a freshman in high school, that I needed to be successful. I wanted her to be proud of me.
Right.
And everything I do, even to this day, it could be OCD. I don't know what it is, but even to this day, as a 34-year-old man, everything I do is to make her proud of me.
Right.
And that was my motivation, honestly. And
Yeah.
anybody I spoke to, anybody in high school, that knows me and has come up to me and said, well, you've always been that way. Like, you've always been motivated. And I don't know. And they said, well, I don't know why you're motivated, but it took the loss of my mom to motivate me.
Yeah.
And, and that's why I'm so big on, the kids, because they never know when their parents will leave here, and don't ever take anything for granted.
Yeah. And what I found is that when it comes to, an individual achieving a measure of success, oftentimes or every time, that there has to be a why. You have to have a why. You have to have some burning reason why you wake up every day, some burning reason why you do the things you do, a reason why you do things the way that you do them. And for you, it's your mother. You want to make sure that you make your mom proud. So that's your why, and we all have to have one, because if we don't have a reason why, we're not going to get there. We're not going to do anything. Just like you said, you'll just stay in the funk. You won't get anything done. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Man, so the first thing I would have told my younger self was to learn more about entrepreneurship and investing. I wasted a lot of money when I was younger on a lot of things, that like shoes, clothes. I wasted a lot of money when I was younger. And if I can go back and tell my younger self one thing, that would be to not apply for student loans in college.
Mm-hmm.
And also, because when you get older, it's debt.
Yeah.
And also and also to invest money, and take the time to learn about the stock market, and take the time to learn about things that are just starting out back
Right.
then, and invest in those things, and you
Yeah.
will have been wealthy today.
Yeah. And you say that, but I remember when I was in school that there were some people in college that were actually savvy enough to take their refund checks and invest it. So peep game, I actually did that. That's how I bought my first car. I took one of my refund checks, I invested it at Prudential Financial, and when the time came for me to get my first car, I pulled that money out and was able to, buy my first car, $1,200 cash. That was a lot of money back then.
Right. It was.
Yeah, but and so definitely, understanding the whole that whole financial piece, I think, is definitely something that we need exposure to at a younger age. I know when I went to college, I ended up getting, they let those credit card people set up with those tables with the free t-shirts and the bags and all that, and at that age, we don't know any better. So we just go in and sign up for a card. You get a little $300 card. It don't take much, a couple of trips to the gas station, a couple of trips to Domino's or whatever, that $300 is gone.
That's
And
right.
now guess what? You don't have a job. So how are you going to pay for it? Now,
Right.
now what you got? You got debt. You have bad debt, right? There's good debt and there's bad debt, but definitely understanding that money and how it works and investing. I mean, even during this time, here, I took a little bit of money and invested it using the Robinhood app. And I've earned, I think, 134% on that money that I put in there. And it was just on one stock, and it wasn't anything spectacular. I just saw that the stock had been moving up, and then as soon as COVID-19 hit, it took a serious dip. Like, it took a real
Mm-hmm.
bad dip. So in my mind, I'm like, well, if it wasn't for COVID-19, this thing would still be doing well. So, I had a set amount of money in Robinhood that I hadn't invested in over a year. So I put it all in that. And sure enough, I bought in when it was down,
Mm-hmm.
and that thing has started climbing up. I wish I would have had a little bit more money to put in it,
Right.
because that would definitely be helpful. But definitely, as a young person, understanding how money works
Mm-hmm.
is something that is very valuable. you know Another thing is, in terms of success, is reading and books. It's been said that um you know the most successful people are readers, or I've heard, leaders are readers. I've also heard that.
Yes.
What book would you say would be the most influential to you in your success?
Well, there are actually a couple. Um, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is
Absolutely.
a book that I refer to a lot.
Yes.
I didn't really start reading that, honestly, until a couple of years ago, when the school that I worked at was a leader in me school who actually used those habits.
Mm-hmm.
So that book and 2 more books. When I started life insurance, I read a couple of books. The first one is The 7 Steps to Success. And that was by the CEO of the National Agents Alliance, Andy Albright. And so I read that book. And there's also another book called The Millionaire Maker's Manual. I carry that book with me. I read that book on my cell phone and physically all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing about being a millionaire is a mindset change. And so if I had known about how I could change my mindset earlier, I would have started reading earlier. But those are 3 books that I read all the time.
Yeah. And you talk about, one of the secrets to success is the mindset, or a positive mental attitude, as Jim Rohn would say. But it is absolutely critical that, people understand that the path to success is opened through your mind. It's open through
Exactly.
having a vision. And I cannot express how personally I know that, because for me, things did not start going to another level until I started reading and listening to books. Now, I'm actually a slow reader, so I get frustrated when reading, and I don't think I've ever really finished a book. But I have an audible.com library that is deep, right? So I listen to a lot of my books on tape. And what that does is it gives me the opportunity to subconsciously take in the information, because I could physically be doing something else, but listening to it through my earbuds, and
Exactly.
subconsciously that information is getting into my brain. And it's absolutely amazing how much of an impact reading and listening to the right things can have on an individual. Um, but no, 7 habits of highly effective people. That is absolutely that's probably one of the first self-improvement books that I read. So that's definitely a good one. I've got that one in my library. Awesome. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge um, in your road to achieving success, and how did you overcome that?
So for me, honestly, overcoming objections. Um, so in the past, I say 4 years, I think the past 4 years have been the most objectionful. It's a word today, but
Yeah.
the most full of, but the most full of objections. The most full of objections. The last 4 years have been the most full of objections,
Yeah.
because I have this pathway that I chose, and that is I want to be a principal of a school.
Right.
And so in the midst of wanting to be a principal of a school, I've attended to this day the sum of about 60 interviews for principalships in North Carolina, outside of North Carolina, state of Texas, Virginia, one in South Carolina. And so I've just been rejected. And so the one thing that I did not know how to do at the time was to overcome objection. I would start questioning myself, my abilities. And it even played into my family. Kind of got depressed. I worked so hard to go along this pathway, and I'm not seeing the results of me working hard to come to this pathway.
Right.
So it honestly just took a lot of prayer and just realizing that, maybe, just maybe, I'm not meant to do what I'm trying to do. Maybe there's another pathway. And so starting the businesses 4 years ago has really helped in me learning more about business and reading more and actually understanding how money works, things I should have done when I was younger.
Right.
So that has really helped me to overcome the objection of not getting the job that I want. And so I've also, in the midst of these 4 years, actually taken time to help others is how I overcame that. I've helped maybe a couple of friends start their own businesses as well. Just getting them to understand the importance of marketing their business, having a high quality product, and not just being able to sell that product, but you need to also learn the acumen. So me taking the time to help other people start their businesses and helping and seeing them win kind of gives me a sense of empowerment and a sense of redemption from the rejection.
Absolutely. Now a couple of things I want to touch on from what you just said. So one of the first thing you kind of said was overcoming objections. Now, in my business, obviously I'm in the car business, so you can imagine everybody that I sit in front of, they've got an objection. And there is absolutely a way to handle that. And what I have learned is that we have to be diligent about studying and wanting to improve. So, I would say, you said you went on 60 interviews. From those 60 interviews, what feedback did you receive? And if you didn't receive it, did you ask for it? If you didn't get the feedback, I would encourage you, call them up and ask for the feedback, because whatever feedback they give you, then you know what it is you need to work on, right? So then when you go to the next one, you would have worked on that. So what are you going to say now? So by the time, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So
yeah, I do.
They tell you, okay, well, sir, you need to do 1, 2, and 3. All right, boom, you go work on 1, 2, and 3. You get that in your arsenal, and you go back for another interview. Well, now they can't hit you with sir 1, 2, and 3 because you've already addressed 1, 2, or 3. So what is it going to be now? So now when they give you that next objection, oh, okay, cool, bet, go work on that. Then when you go for the next interview, now you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 that the first 2 people said were a reason that they weren't giving you the opportunity. So now you've addressed that. So now what is it going to be? So in my business, those of us that do well are the ones who take those objections and understand how to overcome them. Oh, I need to talk to my wife. Oh, that's not a problem, sir. I agree with you. I totally understand. I speak with my wife as well before I make any decisions. So certainly you guys had this conversation before you got here. I tell you what, let's go ahead and give her a call. You need to speak with the wife, right? Let's give her a call. Address it. Like you just hit them right with it. So what I would say to you is that you should have a good body of feedback, from those interviews. And I would say, write those things down, brother, and just start checking them off, addressing them one by one, mastering them, so that by the time you go for your next opportunity, you'll be well polished. you would have addressed, all of the different scenarios that someone could have put in front of you. So then what else could it be?
And that's the question, Nate, because like I said, in the midst of these 60 interviews, I can tell you right off the bat, the first 20 interviews, yes, the feedback that they gave, I would definitely go and address those, listen to principals who've already done it. I have over 35 years of partnerships with principals who have, who've been in the seat for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The last 30 interviews I had, I've been a finalist in the second. I've gone to second and third round interviews.
Right.
And like, honestly, I can count all my interviews. I can tell you everything about those interviews. They were, I would be the last two people in those interviews. And it's been that way for the last 30 interviews that I've had.
Right.
And it just came down to experience. And
Right.
I said, okay, well, I mean, at the end of the day, my interview skills, they basically said my interview skills were great, but it just boiled down to experience. And
right.
so my question is, how can you, in any field, how can you get
Get the
experience in a field
experience if you're not getting the
if
opportunity?
you're not in, right?
Yeah.
And so I just said, well, it's not me. And I think 4 years ago, it started, but last year it really started getting to the point where it's not me. So maybe I'm just not, and maybe I'm not meant to do what I'm trying to do. And God has a plan for everyone.
Maybe not at this time, right? Because the feedback is experience. So I would say, well, what would you suggest for someone who maybe doesn't have X number of years of experience as a principal? What can I do in terms of experience so that I can put myself in a position to be eligible for such a position? Because at some point, somebody's going to have to be the one to say, we're going to give you your first shot.
Right. That's good advice. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So it's definitely not, I wouldn't say, well, no, maybe this is not meant for me. No, absolutely not. That's not the case. If that's what you want to do, if that's your vision, it's meant for you. It's simply a matter of when. That's all it is. It's just a matter of when. It may not be now. It's just a matter of when. And, just stay on that path and continue to be prepared for those opportunities, because the opportunity will come. It's just a matter of when. And you're doing the right thing. In the meantime, you're sharpening your skills, by your entrepreneurial endeavors, because absolutely some of those skills in entrepreneurship are absolutely transferable to a leadership position anywhere.
It's Cubby's last habit. Cubby's last habit is sharpening the saw.
Right.
So that's pretty much what it all means. That means get experiences and other things that will be in line with what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. So what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment, and why?
You know what? Honestly, when I didn't really take the time to think about my greatest accomplishment, because I got it. So, in the past month and a half, I had been for the past 3 or 4 years trying to finish my book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's my biggest accomplishment is finishing the publishing, not the publishing, but the artistry is being done right now.
Right.
But finishing my book on, it's a children's book though, but I love it because it talks about losing a parent, and things that you can do, when you lose a parent.
Right.
That was my biggest accomplishment, because up to the point where I finished my book, I kept having all these dreams where I would talk with my parents, and like everybody that raised me is now deceased. Mm-hmm. And so I've had dreams for the past 3 or 4 years where, I'm sitting and talking with them on a park bench. It was the craziest dream ever. But those dreams led me to finishing that book. And the purpose of that book, it serves a purpose of helping people to find ways to cope, not get over, but cope with losing a parent, whether they've lost one parent or two. And so what my desire is that that book, when it's done, it can be on in families' living rooms as well as in school media centers, because it comes from the perspective of a child.
Right.
And so when I wrote that book, a lot of tears were cried. Had a lot of sleepless nights. Honestly, I don't sleep much, but that has been my biggest accomplishment to date, I believe.
Awesome. So then we can add author to the list. So when we bring you back for your second interview, we can say published author by that point.
Yes, sir. And I'm also working on my autobiography right now. I'm about 3/4 of the way done with that. But
yeah,
the children's book for me is just one of the biggest things.
Gotcha. So on the flip side, what would you say has been probably your greatest disappointment? And the reason why I asked that question is because, let's not be fooled. Let's not be misunderstood that the path to success and the road to success is paved with great accomplishments and also very likely some great disappointments. But the journey to that success is sweeter because we're able to have those disappointments and deal with them. So what would you say has been, your greatest disappointment and why?
So when I first got married, we've been married 10 years in June. Hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
But when we first got married, I would take the money and I would make some really stupid decisions with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the point where we were not on the brink of divorce, but it was just a lot of conflict and argument in our marriage.
Yeah.
All because of me. Like, I would make stupid decisions with the money.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was a very low point for me because I didn't feel like the man of the house. I didn't feel like that provider that I needed to be.
Yeah.
And so I went into, a mode of just beating myself up, a lot. And so, that was really a low point for me. But bouncing back is the great thing. That's, when you learn about money, how it works, when you learn about the just the value of a dollar and how you can use that dollar and the power that dollar has in terms of getting your family where you want them to be, creating the vision.
Yeah.
That was a part of the bouncing back piece. But that was a very low point for me.
Yeah. And that is something that is very important in terms of relationship and in marriages, not only communication, but definitely finances. That's one of the two things that, that can tear up a marriage. But the ability, again, for an individual to go through those challenges and overcome them is part of that rising to success. And in that aspect, you talked about money and not making good decisions with it. On the flip side of that, though, when an individual is able to create a situation for themselves to where they're able to dictate their income, or they're able to control that money situation even more because they have taken things into their own hands, that in and of itself is a measure of success, because now you're not depending on someone else for your ability to provide. Now you are in full control of that. And there's definitely something to be said for anyone who can achieve that within their own life, is the ability to control their own income and dictate the livelihood of their family rather than depending on others to do it. It's a great place to be.
Correct.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about your life? What do you enjoy most about the success that you've acquired or that you've achieved?
Honestly, not stressing so much about finances and not stressing about, where are we going to get the money to take care of this, or where are we going to get the money to take care of that? Because that consumed 8 years of the last 10, to be honest. being able to spend a little more time with my kid, although I work a lot still, but the time that I get to spend with him is good.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, just the mindset of, I'm just starting, and eventually it's going to be to the point where I will be financially free, although financial freedom isn't free.
Right.
Just having the mentality that I have, I'm honestly just enjoying the mentality change, and I'm enjoying the different avenues and stretching my mindset and my and not being focused on one thing.
Right.
I was laser focused on one thing for the last for 6 or so years prior to, like, laser focused on being the principal, but now just being able to say that I've dabbled in a lot of different areas.
Right.
Just does a lot for me and my confidence. I also just enjoy the confidence that I've gotten, and yeah.
I can definitely agree with that and understand that, because there was a period of time before we moved here to Hickory. So we moved here in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought my house in Durham. We bought that house in 2009, November 2009.
Mm-hmm.
By December of 2009, I lost 30% of my income, like at the drop of a dime. We went through a period of from 2009 to 2004, 2010 to 2014. So that's about 3 years
Mm-hmm.
that we were 4 years. But in my mind, I remember I went 3 years in between the ability to provide for my family. And it was, you talk about stressful. It was a time that was very full of stress, because every day you don't even want to go to the mailbox because you know
Right.
what's there. Look, I ain't got it. Stop sending the letters. I ain't got it. Right? You don't even want
Yep.
to go to the mailbox. But I say that to say I remember that even during that time, that mentally, because I had we'll call it a success mindset, because I had a success mindset, I didn't focus on the fact that I had lost 30% of my income. My focus was, how am I going to regain it? What am I going to do to regain it?
Mm-hmm.
And there is something to be said for having that sort of a mindset, that when challenges come, you are not consumed by it. Rather, what you're consumed with is how to overcome the challenge. So you're
Mm-hmm.
putting your energy and your efforts into improving your situation rather than putting your energy and efforts into sulking or being
Mm-hmm.
sad, but that only comes once you have developed or start to develop a success mindset, because the success mindset will force you to look for a creative way to
Mm-hmm.
overcome the challenge, so I absolutely enjoy having that success mindset, because I've even since then I've been through challenges. We came to Hickory in 2014 for
Mm-hmm.
me to be a store manager for a major retailer. After 3 years, they decided to let me go because, quote unquote, I wasn't developing fast enough. Now, this is the same company that after 4 months, brand new with the company, in 4 months, they gave me my own store. So I was developing fast enough for you guys after 4 months that you gave me my own store. But in year 3, all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden now I'm not developing fast enough.
Right.
And of course there was something else going on. There was some other developing that I wasn't doing, that I wasn't a part of, but that's fine. But the great thing about that is, within that challenge, because I had that success mindset, I was able to go from being 17 years in retail, moving over to automotive sales, and and being where I am now and doing what I'm doing now, which, not to be, braggadocious or anything, but I'm achieving success. I'm doing well. And is simply because of that success mindset. Is because, I wake up each day and I listen to the affirmations, because I've read the books that talk about, that all you have to do is have the vision. I had the vision that I could succeed, and I got into the business, and I've done that, and I will continue to do that. And that's part of the reason why, again, I'm doing this podcast, and I'm opening up this platform for myself, is because I feel that there are people that need to hear this. There are people that need to see and hear and read our stories and understand, look, I've been where you are. I've been there, and this is how I got out of it. This is what I did to get out of it. So I absolutely appreciate that. Understand that, what you enjoy about it is having that new mind, that new vision of, hey, I can do basically whatever it is that I want, as long as I put in the effort to do it.
Right.
So who do you admire most? Who is the person that inspires you the most?
Oh man. I don't just have one person,
Man,
but
I know there's at least one that you and I could agree upon, that was and is an inspiration to us. There's at least one person that we would wholeheartedly give a 2 thumbs up to, and I probably need to go ahead and have him on here, and bring him on to the podcast. But yeah, there's at least one. I'm not gonna say who, but I'm gonna let you speak.
Okay, let me see. If I had to think of one, okay, all right, I got it. This goes back to my Durham being in church days though.
Okay.
One person that I admire the most is Troy Weaver.
Man, that's who I was talking about.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's who I was talking about.
I admire him simply because of all the good things that he's taught me, but in the midst of adversity, when he had the accident with the bus and all the stuff that followed that, he just did not lose who he was. And I love that man. I wish I could, and I tell him all the time, whenever I see him, I said, I'm an honorary Weaver. Just think of a K word and call me that.
Right. I think we all want to be one of the Weaver boys,
Yeah.
But absolutely, Brother Troy is definitely someone who I as well personally admire, someone who I feel has had a measure of success, and I will absolutely have him on, because there was one point there, he was like a father figure for me. I like seriously within my heart felt like he was my dad, and I had a stepdad, and I never really knew my real father, but like with Brother Troy, it was just like, man, all of the things that Brother Troy has done, has accomplished. I mean, and the fact that he's got 1,800 kids.
Exactly.
And 2,000. Right, and and every one of those boys have just done him so well, have made him and Sister Claudette really extremely proud. I mean, I wholeheartedly would agree with you. That is someone that I admire, and I definitely am going to reach out to him. For some reason, I don't know if he's not on Facebook anymore or something. I think he is, but
he's not on this much.
Yeah, I don't think I got that far to see him, because literally, the first, I don't even know how many invites I sent out, man, but I was getting responses back so quick. I haven't sent any new invitations out for folks, but that's definitely one of the people that I'm going to have on. Absolutely.
I would love to watch that whole podcast.
Yeah, indeed. So, so how has your success and what you've accomplished help you to become, the best version of yourself?
Well, just instilling the confidence in me. I didn't really have as much confidence. I kind of exuded, because, at one point in time it was like, well, I'm just gonna, hide the fact that, I'm not really doing that well, but, I'm just smiling in front of people anyway. But it got to the point where I didn't have to do that anymore. And I really started seeing the success that I wanted to see.
Right.
And I'm going to give an example of that right quick. So I didn't think I had what it took to be a coach. The very first sport that I coached was football at the middle school level. And then it got to the point where I started coaching wrestling. But I was an assistant coach when I coached football. Girls basketball, I was an assistant coach. But because wrestling is like my sport that I know about. But I didn't have enough confidence to go out there and coach and mentor other young men and women how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got out there and it started, well, we had a small team. And I was like, oh, man, we only had 10 guys. And there are like 17 weight classes. And 3 or 4 of those guys were in the same weight class. So it was like,
How are we going to do this?
Right. But then that's when I really started, gaining the confidence that I needed. Because, I was a teacher at the time, and I'm very confident in the classroom, but it just didn't translate to the mat. So then I got into the mentality where I said, we're going to compete no matter what, no matter how many people we have on this team. If it was just one person on this team, we're going to go out there and compete with that one person. And so I took that mentality of competing and kind of translated that to my life, because there are so many things like, so many things that I felt like I wasn't good at because I didn't really give it a try. But I'm like, these other guys are winning in this area, and I mean, I can't do that. But I had the mentality to compete. And ever since I've had that mentality to compete, everything that's been put forth in front of me, new adventures, new ideas, I just take them and run.
Yeah.
And really just that one experience has really, helped to shape my competitive mentality.
Yeah. And it's funny that, when it comes to, being the best version of ourselves, I think there's going to be a common theme, and it's going to be that push, that press, that stretch, right? It's going to be that situation that's going to cause us to do something that we didn't think that we could do,
Right.
And that's when you really, like you said, that competition, that's when you really get the best out of a competition, right? When you're pushed to the max, then you really find out how good you really are.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our podcast. Make sure to connect with us on all of our platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast on anchor.fm. Best of all, make sure to check out the website at AchieveSuccessPodcast.com.